Greetings to all of you, and I do welcome you to this broadcast. Welcome. Welcome to the People's Movement platform, one in which we're able to have a discussion, and very fruitful, very healthy discussions about that which pertains to our nation. We believe that we ought to hold elected officials and those who've been selected accountable. And in this 2025 general and regional elections, the People's Movement would be a part of that process. We shall be involved in the electoral process, but I would like to announce to you that we would more than likely and have already gone the path of coalescing. They say the word is not collating, we coalesce. And we're going to coalesce because that is the healthiest way, that is the healthiest approach to take towards ensuring that our country is governed in a truly democratic manner. We do not hold to our hearts and to our conviction, or with any conviction, the thought that one man, one person, one face, one individual, one party must dominate anything in our country any longer. And so, although there's significant traction being gained by the people's movement, although we've got quite a lot of support, we understand, and I'm happy that those who've become members of the people's movement, we're going to have that. Given this climate we're in, I was not really inclined to have, or we were not initially speaking to membership cards and so on, but we understand now that we need to do that because of the People's Pathetic Party's bid to have moles and other people inserted into various groups to cause issues. We're going to have, therefore, forms, electronic forms as well, where you can fill these forms to be members of this movement and distribute cards to ensure that we know who belongs to or who shares the ideology of the people's movement. We must have, as Guyanese, a clear understanding of what danger we face at this time in our country. Today, it has made the news yet again. Another Guyanese man has been shot and killed, allegedly by members of the Guyana police force. And another situation in which police are lying, are seeking to deceive when they said they were never chasing, never in pursuit of this individual, only to find that surveillance video footage showed that they were chasing the young man on his motorcycle. This is becoming too frequent. But I would like to share with you before my brother Jenna joins me, and I'm sure you'll have something to say about this as well, because this ties into election 2025. And we'll discuss that. What should be our focus? Should our focus be on whether it's East Indian and African and that kind of nonsense? We're not going to facilitate that kind of discussion because Guyana is under threat by what I consider to be and we consider to be a clan of miscreants or what they call criminals. We are being threatened, and this is so serious that this is yet another situation in which members of the Ghana police force, and I don't like saying the term force, we have pledged to have this name changed. There should be a Ghana police service. These individuals, some of them, have become killing machines, and Clifton Hicken is going nowhere. Yet again, another situation has arisen where a young Guyanese male of African descent has been shot and killed, and the police did not tell the truth according to what surveillance video shows. How many more, as the song says? How many more? How many more? And Irfan Ali sees no need to remove Hicken. In another situation, we're hearing that the death of the young man has been pinned to a security guard, and that security guard has been arrested. Sounds familiar? So we have one who's sanctioned, a senior police rank, who's sanctioned by the United States of America for being involved in drug trafficking, cocaine smuggling. One who was a commander of a regional division. What is really going on in our country? Would we expend our energy on arguing about East Indians and Africans and who's going into East Indian community and PNC community? Is that what you're already focusing on? Instead of paying attention to the fact that all opposition parties, and I say it again, all should have been willing to work together to ensure that we rid ourselves of this clan. And then we could work the other differences out. But that will not be happening because people have got desires to be president. So many people, they want to be in charge of the whole country. And you saw what happened with PNC and AFC and AFC, AP and AFC, two different directions because they could not agree on certain basic things, which included leadership. Here are the people's movement. We are going to be responsible enough to demonstrate a totally different attitude because Guyana matters more to us than anything else. The safety of our country, the well being of our country matters more to us than having what I call nursery school arguments about who should be in charge and who should not be in charge. We are not going down that road with anyone. So I welcome to the platform my brother Jinnah. Welcome to the platform, my brother. We have got an interest in our country being governed in a healthy way. So you've not heard Jinnah, you've not heard me, you've not heard other persons who've now become members of the movement, and those of you who are watching, and I'm so grateful that you paid so keen attention to this. You've never once heard us say that we have to be president or we have to be prime minister or anything. What we said is we would have to rescue Guyana from this group of despots, this clan of criminals who do not have an issue with us being shot in the street and being killed like animals. As long as the money is protected, that's what we're focusing on. How do we change the course of events in our country to the betterment of us as a people? So, Jenna, go ahead, my brother. Welcome to the broadcast. And pardon my lengthy introduction.
As usual, shalom, shalom, salam, namaste. Um, I had a good discussion with Sister Amanda today in relation to this way in which we conduct ourselves on the show. The people's movement, as you said, anybody could be a member of the people's movement. It's a movement. It's not a political party that is controlled by one or two individuals. We have said this over and over again. Anybody who is an independent thinker, that person regard him or herself as part of our movement. The movement is wide and it's bigger than anyone else. And we share our platform with anyone who agrees or doesn't agree with us. And that's the point about being an independent thinker because people, we do not impose our will or ideas on people. And I'm sure that our participation in this wider movement will bring about the kind of changes that are necessary for Guyana. And when we get into the subject matters that are there for us to discuss tonight, people will see that we have very clear ideas, not only that we are critical of the establishment, but we put forward clear, succinct ideas how we can resolve all these problems that faces us today. As we have said over and over again, we have reached a stage in our country where we are led by a dictatorship,
Yes,
and we should repeat it over and over. And every dictatorship has a dictator, and this dictator that we experiencing today is Mr. Jagdeo.
yes.
Fortunately, he's a very weak dictator because he is incapable of managing his own party and the people who he claims are members of his party. And so, therefore, as you have said, we are open for discussion with anyone we associate with the broader trade union, women's group, youth groups, farmers organizations, and people, like-minded individuals, prominent individuals here in Guyana and abroad. So you are free to ask us questions on this program. You are free to criticize us once you do it respectfully and constructively. And that's what we want to encourage that does not exist in this country at this moment. It's
That's
very
right.
sad. It's very sad that our founding fathers, which is Mr. Burnham or Comrade Burnham and Comrade Chedi Jagan, would have been very proud that we are here today celebrating their thoughts and ideas and their philosophy. They may not have had everything right, but they've had a vision of making this country a better place for us to live in. And I'm sure that when we get into the discussion tonight, we will demonstrate that we are children and or followers of that vision. So, Brother Nigel, let's go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Jenna. Let's speak to elections 2025. Brief though it may be, it's important for us to keep that in focus. There's a saying, and there would have been much that would have been said about us removing the PPP from their installed position at all cost at this in these elections of 2025. Because I've traveled to Upper Quarantine and also New Amsterdam, and the sentiment across the board is that they people do not want to deal with these group of people. The APNU is not governing. So persons have said that they've not functioned as an opposition in the manner they should have. But the focus and the loud cry for across the country, and especially Berbice where I was that the PPP have become extremely dangerous to the Guyanese existence. And the historicity, the historical view of PNC PPP would have also become very dangerous to our future. So persons have pledged that they intend to have in these elections a new face, a new group, a new political culture emerge. It's healthy for us to have a discussion, therefore, my brother, about why are we hearing, even at this critical juncture in our society, why are we hearing and why are we seeing the some operatives trying to infuse into this discussion this ethnic argument? And Azadin being one of the most, or he is now, in reference to polls, the most popular of all candidates. Why do we have this about the Indian and the black and or Africans, I call them? I don't call people black. Why do we have that? Why is that now something with this wicked dictatorship headed by Jagdeo? Why do we have people who don't? And I just want to hear your view on this. What are your thoughts as to why is it happening? The loss of focus already. We haven't even entered August, and there's a shifting of focus from we have to get rid of this dictator called Barrett to it being, oh, you're pulling Africans, you're pulling this, you're pulling Indian. Why that? And this is where we have uncomfortable discussions, by the way. So, Jenna, why do you have this divisive culture still trying to creep up in our discussions, although we have this dictator in Jaglio?
What has happened with dictatorships? That they find ways of surviving. If you look throughout the whole world, you will see that they look to find things that can divide people. It's a colonial mentality that have been
That's good.
inserted in our culture, unfortunately. that people tend to gravitate to certain groupings or certain ideas um, or certain views or opinions. And in this situation in Guyana, there are only probably two ways or three ways in which our society can be divided. The main one is it's about race, and the second one is about religion. Third one may be about tribalism. Um, and so therefore, the dictatorship is faced with a major crisis because
Yeah.
we have a situation which repeats itself in the 1950s and 1953 in particular, where Mr. Burnham and Dr. Jagan formed the People's Progressive Party and took part in an election. And they won a landslide, 18 out of 21 seats in
Hmm.
what they call the Lechco at the time. And so we are seeing in modern times a repeat of that unity that frightens the establishment and those who are associated with it. Because the most fearful thing is when people of different ethnicity, and in the case of Guyana, the two main races, Guyanese of African descent and Guyanese of Indian descent, are not going to have this sort of a division anymore, this race card being played out anymore. And they have shown it in a number of incidents, particularly in the one to do with the little girl,
Adriana.
Adriana Young. You have seen the outbursts, particularly from mothers of all races, of all ages, who have taken to the screen, to TikTok, and have expressed themselves very clearly
Yeah.
that they are not going to allow anyone, anyone to divide them on the basis of race. So it is not surprising that the dictatorship is now an element of the dictatorship is moving into a situation where they want to actually use that element. And they are so stupid and dumb that they can't see that that is not going to work. It is not
Yeah.
working. It will not work. The funny thing is that Mr. Azruddin Mohammed did not even declare that he was going to participate in the electoral process, and they were getting jittery. They even
Yes.
went to his, they even went to talk to his relatives not to tell him not to participate in the electoral process. And I am sure in that discussion they may have offered tangible concessions. But thankfully, Mr. Azzuddin Mohammed didn't go for that. He has stood out, and you can see from the my brother called me, a veteran journalist called me about 5 minutes before this program started, and he said to me that he's never seen, he's over his 70s, he said he's never seen that level of unity of
Yes.
ideas and fearlessness that the Azuddin movement has brought to this this uh, this society and the changes that people are demanding. In fact, I have been, as you have noticed, with Mr. Azruddin speaking at meetings, and particularly in the farming area, and that people have overwhelmingly demand, not request, they demand that he come forward and represent them in the highest state, the highest position in this country. I've been there. I've heard him, people making those demands overwhelmingly. So Mr.
Yes.
Azruddin, as a potential president of this country, has not put his hat out because he's ambitious and wants to become president. He's doing it because people have made demands. And we have always said people must be elected and not selected and don't put themselves
That's
forward
correct.
for anything if the people do not request you. We need to, when we, I believe seriously, and I've said to him that all indications have shown that there will be a landslide. And I'm happy that we are part of this movement, which we will then, at the time, the appropriate time of the election, that will come out and we will make our position absolutely clear and endorse him as the future president of this country.
So, with that said, Brother Jenna, we have to venture into what I call the uncomfortable zone. I like that. I like that because we are independent thinkers. You and I have demonstrated clearly that there are times you can disagree, but we're still brothers in the cause. And that's healthy because we're noticing, and it's become very disheartening to Guyanese. Um, in that I've spoken to people, as I said, I traveled to Belize and we've had some conversations, and it pained my heart to know that Guyanese have observed behaviors which are quite unpatriotic, in that the fight just to be number one has led to the electorate, those who would vote, being saddled with some degree of uncertainty, as Hadi said, uncertainty, uncertainty. They don't know what to do. Now, here's where one of the issues would have arisen. You and I know, and those who are viewing, I hope you can hear us clearly. You're seeing us clearly. We have no report about any distortion, so we seem to be good. You and I know, my brother, that there would have been extensive complaints about the inactivity of the opposition. That's a given. The members have been clamoring for representation, and that is where you and I would have come in many cases to be standing and representing the cause of people, and even making it known that we aren't even paid to do this, but yet we are, because we love our country that much. And now you're hearing that in an ethnic chorus, to some extent, that the Africans should be supporting the PNC to protect ourselves from the PPP. And that because Azzedine, Mr. Mohammed, is of Indian descent, then it is not good for African descendants. These are conversations that at the People's Movement level, because we're independent thinkers, and because our job, our mandate, our mission is to re-educate and re-inform people, have them think differently. We must discuss that at this level. We must discuss at this level, my brother, this thought about PNC being an African descendant party, PPP being an Indian descendant party, and that you are disloyal if you go anywhere else. Let's speak to that. Unmute for me, please.
These are, both parties have become tribalist. And for the purposes of this discussion, we have to go back a little. We have to always go back to our history, because
Correct.
we have a very rich history, where our
That's
people
right.
have where our people have historically fought against colonialism and imperialism in a very consistent way. And for those younger people who have not read or experienced or been told by their parents, we were prevented, and I said it at the last program we had, we were presented as a people from developing our country. And as Mr. Burnham had said in one of the broadcasts, which I think I sent to you, if you can find it and we can put it there so that people can listen to what Mr. Burnham and with Dr. Jagan said about the control of our natural resources
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
in the interest of our people. So if you have that video, if you can put it up, so people who have not seen it, they can hear two gentlemen of who are patriotic, the greatest patriots this country have had in the modern times, are saying the same thing we are now saying today. that we need to
Yes.
control the resources of the country, which we are not. And we have allowed people, both PNC, PPP, and AFC, to actually sell our resources. They have sold off the wealth of this country to foreigners, not only in the oil industry, but
That's right.
also other other resources, other minerals that
Yes.
they have sold
Yes.
to foreigners and have allowed them to come into our country and steal our gold and diamond and other resources and fly away with it without us knowing a single thing about it. We need to have that level of unity to make that kind of change, that this type of robbery would never happen again. So we are calling here on this platform to put aside your differences of opinion and join in this movement that we have announced to stop this daylight robbery. The last time you and I spoke about how we can enrich ourselves, we don't need any foreign aid from United States of
No,
America or anybody else. We don't. And we talked about and we must speak about it in more detail, how we can join with our neighbors. Look,
that's right.
I have discussed this matter with people who have asked me this question about what is about Venezuelan threat to Guyana, and I have said to them, the Venezuelans are annoyed with this establishment, this dictatorship, for selling out the resources of our country. And Mr. Maduro had made it absolutely clear that Ali, who's the president, is a puppet of American imperialism
That's what he
that
said.
that has allowed them to rip off our country. And I think he was speaking on our behalf. There is no intention. There might be threats, but there is no intention of invading our country or occupying our country. The people who want to occupy our country is people, the political elite. And let's make a distinction between the people of America, United States
Yes,
of
please.
America, and the ruling elite who want total control over resources. Imagine if we were to form a consortium with our neighbors, Brazil, Venezuela, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago. They together have more than 400 years of experience alone in the petroleum industry. And we don't need any foreign aid. We don't need to borrow any money because we can actually negotiate with them to have 50% in the consortium for the development of the an oil and modern oil refinery. In fact, let me say this: I've been having some discussions recently with important people in the Suriname government, and one of their chief advisors have been talking to me and have agreed with this idea that I'm putting forward. So as soon as Mr. Um, Azruddin assumes the position of president, before that, we are having the kind of discussion
Right.
and the kind of talks about collaborating economically. And so, what we need to have is a Caribbean South American integration process. Imagine that Venezuelans coming to Guyana have to get a visa to land into our country. Why is it that this country is restricting these people from coming there? According to their own figure, we have 100,000 Venezuelans
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and nothing is wrong because when our people, more than 67,000 Guyanese, were living in Venezuela and they were treated very well by the Venezuelan people. I went 2 days ago. No, I think it was yesterday to a funeral where my cousin was married to a Venezuelan and they came here and then he died last week. And I went to the funeral and I spoke at the funeral. So we have that situation here facing us where our people are living in Brazil, Do you know that there are more than 80,000 Guyanese living in Suriname, and
Yeah,
their children and grandchildren are born in Suriname? In Trinidad and Tobago, I have my brother and my sister who have lived there for over nearly 40 years, and they have their children and grandchildren born in Trinidad, and some of them have actually claimed Guyanese citizenship, and they're Guyanese.
uh,
So
yeah,
that process of integration is upon us, and
yeah,
shamefully, these governments, and particular ours, um, have not taken the initiative of opening up our borders, even though we have signed the Shagaramas Agreement, which talks about many years ago, which talks about the free movement of
free
labor
movement.
and
Correct, correct.
capital. And so
But Jenna,
why is it?
let's yeah. Let me
I
interrupt
was
you.
I was coming to the point
Mhm.
where we were going to discuss the question of food security. But
Now,
anyway,
before we go to food security,
you go ahead.
um, yeah, thanks. Yeah, before we get to food security, because I really want us to make this clear to those who follow the People's Movement platform, and there are many who are here right now, about the ideology that says if you're an African descendant and you vote for any other group, you have essentially betrayed your ethnic group. So you must give your vote to APNU. And if you're an Indian, is of East Indian descent, then you have to vote for PPP, lest you would have betrayed your ethnic grouping. That conversation must be had, because if we're going to have a totally different party leading the country, a different movement leading the country, then we must have this conversation from an intellectual perspective to show Guyanese how dangerous that ideology is in the light of what we face. And let me just say what I mean by that. If people were saying, let's go to COVID with Frank Anthony and those, listen, Ali said if we don't have the Fauci's potion, the jab, you're worse than the virus. There has never been a president in this country who's insulted the population more than Irfan Ali. And Barack Jagdeo is not the vice president. There's never been a dictator like Jagdeo who's insulted us more than any. Well, he has insulted me, but I'm saying hurl insults at people. And so once you have got a country where leadership is so disregarding of people's rights, then it filters into many other ideologies, which the main ideology for Ghana at elections is racism. It is ethnic division. And when you began to take us back to Burnham and Chetty, I would like us to revisit that, because Burnham and Chetty both understood, the fathers of the PPP understood that they had one common issue, one common enemy. Not five or six, it was one. And this one common hindrance would have been the colonial system that had us crippled. So they decided, listen, we have to go to become an independent nation. They agreed to that. Chetty agreed that we should have our natural resources owned by us. We must control production and the means of it. They had an agreement because they understood that if they do this together, it will be healthy for Guyana. And the colonial masters at that time, as they were called, understood that in order to prevent Burnham and Chetty from functioning most effectively and causing this wealthy nation to thrive, they have to insert ethnic division. That has been our experience over 55 years. Ethnic division controlling our experience and therefore hindering our development. Here we are in 2025, according to Pope Gregory's calendar, and we still have to speak to people about the danger of saying that because I am an African man, I have to vote for a party when for 4 years I was complaining of being misrepresented and unrepresented, if that's a word. That's what we have to, I want us to talk about, Jenna. This has to change because in order for us to have a new experience in this country and any new political party is to be born and to thrive, we have to counteract that as firmly as possible. We have to do it. Because if we don't do it, it remains an elephant that will trample on many, many, many heads of grass.
The question that we need to ask is this, and when you hear people make remarks, negative remarks, you ask yourself the question, who's saying it? Where is it coming from? That's the first question we need to answer.
Right,
Where is this
right,
coming?
right.
Where is this coming from? Who's saying it? Which clan or group is saying it? Do you know that?
Yes.
Well, tell us.
Now these talks are coming from, sadly, people who call, some of them are called influencers. Remember that there's a new word floating around now, influencers, and even party leaders through their minions, I should say. So you hear words like a vote for Muhammad would be a vote for the PPP because it would be you giving your strength to an Indian Guyanese. It's racist, and we have to call it what it is. It is entirely racist because those are not people. I'm willing to see those who are saying these things. I'm waiting for them to present to us, especially the likes of me and you, one piece of video evidence where they were on the road in Guyana standing for the rights of Guyanese. I just need one piece of evidence. Just one piece of evidence where you took time like me. You live in region 3, I'm in region 10, and we travel all the way to the city to stand publicly to defend people. We go into different parts of our regions at our expense. You're a pensioner. And we're going around the place. I'm self-employed. I have to leave my job, leave things just to go to represent people. And now 5 years hence, you're hearing that we should commit ourselves to an ethnic group rather than commit ourselves to changing this conversation and this ideology.
Brother, here are the facts. And you know, we speak the truth. And it doesn't matter whoever is hurt with it. And the fact of the matter is that those who are saying these things are quite insignificant people. If you, that's why I asked you, where is it coming from? There are elements in our society, what we call Asian provocateur, who try to bring things, but it's not working, brother. You yourself know that it's not working because as I said earlier, the vast majority of our people are united against racism and discrimination, sexism and ageism. They
Yeah,
are against it. And so, therefore, the overwhelming majority of people are united on the cause for a better government, an end to the dictatorship. And you can see it every single day as we have our program. People are becoming more and more open minded. People are more and more becoming fearless because they're telling themselves that they don't have any other choice but to actually voice their opinion and to come out and support a growing movement of anti. We are living in a period of anti-dictatorship. That is
that's
what
it.
is happening.
That's
And
it
so
right there.
therefore, what is happening is that those creep who are trying to sow divisions, they are small in numbers, brother. They are small in numbers.
Yeah.
They're insignificant. And I don't think, to be honest with you, and I know you want us to put this to rest, but we shouldn't be giving them prominence because they're in reality you see that I have never seen young women of Indian descent being so vocal on TikTok. Being,
True.
yes, I am,
Yeah.
as a person of Indian descent, I am quite excited by the way in which they have come out individually and supported the murder of Adriana Young. They have taken the kind of risk that a lot of
Yeah.
people would not have taken because the regime, as I've said, is a dictatorship that terrorizes people. I was told today that in Region 9, which is of Amerindian descent, that out of the population of hundreds or probably thousands, only 19 people came to the PPP meeting. That tells you, it is telling you that
Yeah.
the people have heard us, the people are united, and that nobody can break that unity. It doesn't matter what they do because people are not listening to them.
No.
And people are not
But,
listening to them.
yeah. But although they're not listening to them, the thing is that the ideology has been rooted in PNC and PPP for decades, and that's just a fact. They have got
Be-
that
Because
kind of song to sing whenever
because
elections come.
brother, I wrote something today to say that a lot of us are still in this mold of colonial thinking,
Right.
that we
Exactly.
don't believe that we can manage ourselves. That's just why I am against this idea of bringing foreigners to come and manage our election. The last time we spoke
They don't
about
need
this,
to.
we
Exactly.
don't need, we do not need to be overseen by
That's correct.
these ex-colonials we call neo-colonialists who are coming to manage us, to manage our affairs, who will rule us or who would not rule us. We
Yeah.
don't need them. We do not need
Yeah.
any Carter Center. We do not need the United States, anybody from the United States or Europe or your European Union to come and supervise our election. Let us repeat what we said last week. When the elections are held, every single polling station will have or has in the past representatives of the different political parties. And when the ballot boxes are open and the ballots begin to be counted, every single person will have the opportunity to see every single ballot that is cast and see who has marked an X at the different political party. And at the end of that count, everybody knows in that polling station how who has voted for us, for who.
Well,
And the
let me interrupt you right there, Jenna. That's a reality for those parties that are well funded and that have the population to do so. The newer parties, that like they call them smaller parties, if there's a new party that's entered, they do not have the means in many cases to have as many scrutineers and agents to observe what has happened. So they had to, because we saw that in 2020 when people said they had to rely on the larger parties to give them information. To this day, the woman can't tell us who gave her the statement, the poll. So it's this whole electoral process. I mean, moving into food security now, but the whole electoral process in this country is not geared towards a new political movement arising to dominate the scene. That's just a fact.
brother, that is why you said earlier in this discussion that we need to set aside differences of opinion and come together as a
Yes,
new force to challenge the established forces, the PNC and the PPP, who are hiding under different covers. The,
yeah,
what we have in the PPP is a Jagdioite dictatorship. Has
correct.
nothing to do with Dr. Jagan.
No,
Absolutely nothing to do with
nothing.
Dr. Jagan and his philosophy and his ideas of uniting Guyanese and reclaiming our resources and our interests. And the same thing is happening in the PNC. Those two political parties, once this election is held free and fair, they will be destroyed as a political force. And new movement is arising, which are movement that we imbibe, that we are promoting, that will bring out the vision of Dr. Jagan and Mr. Burnham in the way in which we know it in the
Yeah, yeah,
1950s. If you look, as I said, I have a copy of the 133 days in office where their manifesto commitment, the things that they said in the manifesto on education, I'll make that available. I think we should print it and put it on our Facebook so people can read it, on
yes, we should.
education, on housing, on agriculture, on industry, and all these things. More than 50 years ago, these gentlemen or these brothers have promoted those ideas, and we are inheritors of those ideas, and we are lucky that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. All
Yeah.
we our people are looking upon us to take the steps necessary to implement those ideas that were what were snatched away by the imperialist and colonial forces because they landed troops here and overthrew the government, the Jagan and Burnham government in 1953. So they prevented all along, and still as we speak today, they find ways and means of trying to divide us, and that they cannot
And
succeed.
no. And so with that, let's transition into one way in which we, in the people's movement, as I said, soon to be, or we have already, we having discussions about coalescing and working in a healthy partnership, I should say. Um, one umbrella, one vision, one goal, one mission, which would be to not just free ourselves from the PPP and this whole PNC ideology and stuff, but to free ourselves from the whole thought that we cannot have a different group leading our country. That has to stop. There's no way that you tell me that the Ghana can only be led by PNC or PPP for 50 something years. That has to stop. And if there's a last breath in me, I'll ensure that at least we try to ensure that we have a different experience. Food security. This is an ideology that says people should have access to. All people should have access to food that's healthy, it's nutritious, it's safe, and it includes this, which is what I'll show a video tonight. It includes the economic aspect of it because you cannot have food security without having proper strategies for farmers to produce healthy food. Now, some people eat meat, unlike Brother Jenna. Some people eat beef. We had kurbani on Saturday, and so people eat meat.
You know, I'm
A farmer
vegetarian.
took me right. A farmer took me to because I was invited actually to the beast to go to see what's happening with cattle. I did not understand. Remember, we're in Linden. Why would the price of beef be skyrocketing? Every minute it raises from $600, $800 to $1,000. Why is the price of beef just climbing? Why is the price of pork climbing? But we talk about beef tonight. What's the problem? So I went to number 58 and quarantine to look at the cattle ranch. Look at where they have about 9,000 or so, 6 to 9,000 head of cattle. And I want to show a video, but Jenny, we talk about this, where the word and the farmers know what happened. PPP, the big boys as they call themselves, have equipment in the Kanji area running along the back there, excavating to the tune of hundreds of millions of our taxpayers' dollars. They got a contract. Another shell company where they are hiding behind someone of their friends, a very popular one, and he's the face of this project, but it's really the equipment that owned by these PPP elitists. So in order for them to make their money, the excavators are just digging and making this dam that doesn't really need to be present. A result of this dam being built is that the cattle, the grazing grounds have become flooded. Look at this video, Jenna. Let me show the viewers what's happening here. Because farmers have begun to complain, and I went to see their plight. You'll see people as you look in the field and look at where cows have to graze. Look at this. Look where
So
cattle have.
here, this side is where the cattle, this is the land for the cattle farmers that have been, or seeking to have established. Because beef is now $1,000 a pound, right? About $1,000 a pound, maybe beef. Other parts of Ghana, I think. So if you see here, you see the water's moving because way at the back, they're doing some work. This road, this is supposed to be all the way to Linden, right here. So they're doing some work at the back. And of course, PP ministers, they're involved in certain projects behind here. They cut certain areas so that they can have the land drain to do their work. But that water has been sent back into the cattle pasture, which is in here. Now, this canal here is supposed to be draining the cattle ranchers' land. This canal here. But look at it. How could this trade? Right? So we don't have internet signal behind you, that mobile data. So I'm using this phone here and video record. This is supposed to be a drainage canal. So what you notice, the water cannot drain anywhere because the water is coming from there, over here, all the way from the back. And if it's zoom in, I'll show you. All the way from way back there. Basically, those palm trees are way in the background. Those way over there. That's black bush polar. So, you know.
So, Jenna, I hope that people noticed cows, the cattle have to be walking in water to their necks. They have only a little dam to climb on for dry ground. Farmers, when they have to, if they want to slaughter the animal, they can't go through the feed, the place to capture the cow because it's in water deep as their necks trying to eat. So that is why the price of meat is skyrocketing beef because the PPP's leaders have got their work going on. They're milking us. We're not seeing it because Ghanaians is happening in the back there. They've caused a major flood to occur in a cattle ranching area, and they don't care. But yet, at least talking about food security and food security, and they had a bountiful harvest in soybean. They don't give tonnage; they just say bountiful. We put a lot of soybean. How much you don't say. But let's talk about what you see here with these cattle farmers, Jenna, and even in the rice industry, they're suffering. And I must say, before you speak with the cattle, let me just tell Irfan, hello, Irfan, because rice farmers have remembered that Brother Jen and I sat right here and we spoke to having a drying facility in that paddy should not be on the road. I mean, it rains, farmers are in trouble. We said it should be, by now, you should have had facilities to dry the paddy. Guess what? I heard Irfan and Turang telling people that the contracts are out to build facilities for drying paddy. So they're listening. But you can only be a copycat when you don't have vision, right? So talk about why we're having this issue with food security, Brother Jinnah, based on a governance perspective and policy perspective.
I have had the opportunity of meeting Mr. Jagdeo, and about 2 or 3 years ago, and he said that I raised the issue about you. You would recall that you and I and Colonel Wilson and
Yes.
another person went to the conference just as they became the government, the administration, and they gleefully announced that they were going to reduce the importation of food to the Caribbean by by 25%
25% in
by
2025.
2025. Well, we are here now in 2025, and they have admitted what I said to them, that they cannot achieve that. And the reason why they can, I speak now on my hat as chairman of the National Farmers Organization, because I have the experience, the knowledge, and also being a farmer, and yourself too. And
Yes.
we have suffered under this establishment because they are not serious about agriculture. Digging drains and cleaning drains and so on is one thing about agriculture, or making dams. And even that they have failed, because as you quite rightly demonstrated in that video, where the farmers' animal have no pasture, they have
No.
no place where they could actually rear their cattle. And the reason for that is that they have not provided with the millions of acres of land, high land, that we could actually, and in this age and time, we don't need animals to be straying on the road
No.
and on dams and going into people's yard and all these type of things and eating people's people's crop. And the reasons why this is happening is because you have a dictatorship that has no understanding about securing food. To secure food, you have to secure the welfare of the people who are
I don't want to
producing food.
produce it. Exactly.
So if you do not secure my future as a farmer and you don't provide me with the necessary resources to be able to produce that food, you are a damn fool because you don't have any understanding of what food security means.
Yeah.
We in this country are not provided with what I will call the elementary factors of food production, which is the first thing is to have arable lands
Yes.
and to be able to have proper drainage and irrigation on these lands, regardless of what you are rearing, whether you're rearing sheep, goats, cattle, or whatever. You need to have arable lands where you can grow grass for the animal. And you don't need to loose them in the pastures. In England and other places, Europe, America, and so on, the animals don't, they're not left to be to fed for themselves. The grass is cut and they, in the wintertime and they make hay with it.
Yes.
So we need even those, look, brother, these ideas, these technologies have been available for many years. And the fact that we have dunces who've assumed position as ministers in government, it's a shame and disgrace that we have people who are highly incapable of even planting an oak tree, much less or
Yeah.
minding a cow. This is a
Because
level.
because Zulfikar is the Minister of Agriculture. He's paid to, I call him paid to be because he's not a minister. He just receives the money to do it. And Zulfikar lives in Region 6. And where when there's Region 6 quarantine, Zulfikar lives in quarantine. And Zulfikar cannot tell me to my face on one occasion that he doesn't know about the situation. And just be 15 seconds to show you something, and then we talk about.
So here, this side is where the cattle, this is the land for the cattle farmers would have been, or they're seeking to have established. Because beef is now $1,000 a pound in it, right? About $1,000 a pound, maybe beef. Other parts of Ghana, I think. So if you see here, you see the water's moving because way at the back, they're doing some work. This road, this is supposed to be all the way to Linden, right here.
Now, let me stop it. Virginia, let me say, I said to the people, this is supposed to be the road to London because number 58 village, they begun on our other road. And they want to bring that road straight to Kanji Creek, the Kanji River, then they cross and be able to connect and come all the way to Linden. So Bonham had these ideas, but that's another story. They want to bring that road all the way through, so you got to let them go. Now watch with this. You see where this cattle are, people? That's why food security be a problem for us. The greedy PPP dictatorship want the cattle farmers' land. It's about 17,000 acres of land. So when you imagine if you pass a highway through this land, it becomes prime real estate potentially. So what they want to do is to take away the people's land, but the people have got a co-op registered with the Ministry of Labor. So they can't take it. The people are smart and they think farmers don't have sense. Farmers are very intelligent people. I tell people that for you to feed a nation, you have to have sense. Stupid people can't produce food.
You have
So
to have
these
the sense
brilliant
and you have
farmers
to
said,
have you have to have dedication and the sacrifice that
correct,
you make to produce.
commitment.
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, they're up.
One of the other main reasons is because those who consume food have got very little regard or knowledge of the people who are producing the food
Producing the
that they
food.
go and buy.
Yeah. So they have got Jenna 17, I think 17,000 acres. They've got a business plan for an abattoir, for a horse racing track. They have a whole village they could build of their farming community. But the dictators decide, no, this land is too wonderful for us to allow you to develop it because they want it to have housing schemes and so on developed behind there. So they're fighting the farmers. Now, as they fight the farmers, and as they, I believe, deliberately allow those grazing lands to be flooded, it affects us, the consumers, well, those people who are not in the farming. So the price of beef will skyrocket, and they call it food security. If I can't access food, how secure am I in reference to my nutrition? Let's talk about that. Then we go into down to cost of living. If I can't access the food, how do you tell me is Ali want to be president telling me that he's interested in food security? He just uses slogans, but he doesn't know what they mean. Because
You
if I
know,
can't eat, then I cannot have food security.
exactly. When I was having this discussion with Jagdeo and Mustafa, Mustafa was sitting at the other end of the table at Freedom House. You see, you have to go and talk to these people. You have to let them know what in their camp. Because when they go to these meetings, these public meetings, we are not allowed to ask them questions
Right.
because you would have seen that when people take the mic, you have one of their minions, security people, come and take the mic away from them if they
Yes.
are critical. So
Yes.
the way they start out their meetings is to talk down to people. They don't want to hear what the problems people are facing. You don't set a target for me when you would not have had any discussion or consultation with me because
That's right.
I'm the one that is producing. They don't have respect and regard for people. And let me say this with your permission that I have changed the name of the PPP and call it the People's Promises Party because that's
I
what
like
they're
that.
doing. They have
Yeah.
they have been promising and promising. They promised 4, 5 years ago that they were going to give, according to our constitution, lands for the tiller, but it's
Yes.
not lands for the small person. They're not wanting, and they have their policies have nothing to do with empowering the ordinary person that Burnham called
No.
making the small man a real man.
A real
And it
man.
is disgraceful that Aubrey Norton and the PNC are not saying anything about Burnham's history. In fact, if you ask them about I have a document, I think it's about 36 or 50 pages, and I'm trying to make it available to you, produced by Dr. Ptolemy Reed, who was the Minister of Agriculture in the Burnham's administration, where he detailed about the kind of food we need to eat and how we need to grow it. Imagine that.
Yes. Yes. And in that light, Jenna, I spoke to those in quarantine, and they spoke to what's happened at the estate. So we go to sugar now because it's not about food security, food cost there.
But before you do that,
Billions of dollars.
before you
Yes.
do
Sorry.
that,
Go ahead.
I want you to nail this on. The PPP has failed miserably to produce food for this country.
Yes.
And their policy of reducing food to the Caribbean, they cannot even reduce the food import coming to Guyana. To Guyana. If you go to the market and you see tangerine and orange, you ask yourself, where is it coming from?
Yellow.
It's
Brazil.
coming from Brazil and tomatoes.
Brazil.
And the
Watermelon.
excuse, yes, and watermelon. The excuse they make about the high cost of living, which we'll come to later on, is because of what you have said. They have not given the lands and the provisions for the small farmers and medium-sized farmers to produce food adequately, organically, and provide it in a way in which the consumers can go and have wholesome food at what Bornham used to call the 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 market, what they
The
produce,
farmers market.
the
Yeah.
farmers market. You know, I broached the idea about the farmers market with Mustafa. They bought the idea, they tried it out in Monrepo, and it became shambles because they were not able to get a ready supply because the farmers were not producing enough for the market. You see what
Yeah,
I mean?
and what happened because it shows how we can secure our food and also secure the livelihood of the farmer. Because you rightly said that one of the main focuses of us in terms of agriculture policy is how do we first enhance the life of the farmer? How do we secure the well-being of the farmer, not of the field? If you don't have farmers being secure in reference to their livelihood, the field will always suffer in anything you're doing. We understand it because we're in it. We know it. Now, at Gaisuko, they invested billions of dollars for the sugarcane to plant. And guess what? When I got up there, the grass has overgrown the field because it began to rain. They didn't go check on it. And then I noticed something because the farmers have they understand the deal. This is where the PPP have decided to use their friends again, their lackeys and cronies, to make money. These people are about making money. So they don't have an interest in food security. In anything they do in this country, it's about who benefits financially on their side. So if you see them saying they're going to have some massive agricultural investment, one of their friends will have to build the greenhouse. One of their friends will have to be responsible for the materials. You have to buy the tractors from their friends. They have to buy the fertilizer from their friend. And it's about their group empowering them, not the farmers. So we had a discussion and we all agreed in that at that forum. I was speaking to the farmers. They said if we take the sugarcane land, thousands upon thousands of acres, divide it, you speak to the guys who used to work in the cane field, and they have said they agreed to do that. We give, let's say, 10 acres, 20 acres based on your ability to plant cash crops, for example. Now, we would open or build processing facilities. So you create jobs, you create security. There's no limit to which you can produce, and Abraham Chur is doing that. You just produce it, we'll buy it from you. So the farmers are secure now. They have a reason to work. They don't have any threat about their crop going to waste. We begin to make arrangements, as you spoke to this economic zone, where we can export and even reach to Europe because Canada and so on are demanding mangoes, the spice mangoes from Guyana, but they want it in a particular way. You can't send the whole fruit out because of disease. So they say if you peel it, you bottle it, sip it to us, we'll take it. We have farmers in Guyana now who are saying they're prepared to do that. We have the People's Promising Party saying, no, it won't benefit us, so you wouldn't do it. But if you see Barrett, one of his friends has an idea to say, listen, I can make $50 million from this per month, they'll do it because it's in the month, not about the farmer. So we are announcing here again to you policies that will make the farmers' lives better, that will secure food. These cattle ranchers, these cattle farmers, we can ensure that the cattle is protected, as you said, on higher ground. You have got holding facilities that don't walk road all over the place. We have got milking plants. We have an abattoir that provides jobs again. And we can even have along the way resorts because you have Kanji Creek on those places where people can, in the US, people pay to go and see these things. So when they come together, they can see the extensive work being done in the dairy industry. These are all workable ideas because Burnham and others had it in mind, but these new age cats, these dictators don't have that in mind. They want to ensure that they control land, they build houses on it, they sell the houses to their friends and other people, they make money and they destroy agriculture in this country. We're saying that we can open processing facilities. We can open manufacturing plants, processing plants for food, and give the lands of Gaisuko to farmers and sugarcane workers because they could work the land. They'll have a house on the land. They'll have fertilizer on the land. They'll have the agro development bank where they don't have to buy from any private company. They'll buy it from themselves. They'll manage it. There'll be an investment they can make into a share system. So as you produce and as you earn money, you can put your money back into this bond called the agricultural bond. And you earn money. You get dividends at the end of the year. Go ahead, Jen. I will talk all night about this because we have passion for agriculture. You know it.
You seem to you seem to steal my thunder tonight, which is a good thing. I'm happy.
It's a
I'm
good
happy
thing.
that yeah, it's a good thing that you were able to express yourself in this kind of a way. But you're absolutely right. We have got a program and policy that will resolve the food crisis in this country. We do have a food crisis because
Yes.
if a country like ours that is have 83,000 square miles and more than three quarters of our lands are unoccupied, uninhabited, uncultivated. The best part of our lands are in the interior of our country
Yes.
because the slave masters had exhausted the lands on the coastal plain And to be a little bit historical, the reasons why the Dutch colonizers established their estates, what they call the plantations on the coastal plain, was to be able to transport their produce, the cotton, the
Yeah.
sugar, and so on, into the ships, into the boats that carried it to Holland and then to other places and so on and so on. But our lands are there. Burnham had the idea of moving the city to Matthews
Yes.
Ridge. So, so we're talking about, look, Jagdev calls himself the champion of the people. Could you imagine that? A man calling himself the champion of the people, of the champion of the earth. Sorry,
Of the
champion
earth.
of the earth. And this man is advocating, could you believe this? He's on record of imposing the right farmers that you must make concrete floors to dry
Hmm.
your paddy.
Your paddy.
I mean, what sort of a man can think like that in this age and time, brother? It is sheer absolute balderdash for a man to tell the farmers that he's going to make concrete floor when look at the conditions of the rain falling every single day.
Yeah.
And we have a situation where Mr. Burnham had built factories, modern rice factories,
Yes.
and had built silos in those state-owned factories where the farmers were able to bring their paddy and
That's right.
store it in silos, and they then were able to mill their paddy at their own pace
Exactly.
and to sell it abroad.
That's what we're doing.
I grew up in the industry for those are who don't know, where we used to cut our rice with grass knife and we used to plant the rice with our hand.
And yeah.
Today, we don't have to do none of that. The industry is so highly mechanized that I remember even the earlier combines came, we used to go on top of the combine and shake the bags because the paddy used to
Hmm.
come in bags and then stitch it and then throw it on the ground and then you go and you pick it up with your tractor and then take it to your transportation and take it to the factory. Well, does Jagdev know that when the rice is cut now, it doesn't go into bag? So when the combine comes to the edge of the dam and you 100 bags is thrown into the truck or the trailer, are you going to take that to the concrete floor, spread
Uh-huh.
it out, spread it out, and then when it dry, pick it up back and then take it to the mill?
Oh my Lord.
You see from that one single example the idiot, the stupidity of Mr. Jagdeo of thinking in a modern society with a high level of technology. A man can think like that. He wants
Yeah.
to take us to the Iron Age, not to the sky
Right.
where we are saying to the farmers, you are telling the farmers, the rice farmers in particular, to go and produce more rice, and you boast about the production of rice or paddy by 40 to 45 bags per acre, and you
Hmm.
don't have the rice mill to take it off.
Exactly.
The crisis you have in Essecobo, where I have been several times, and I'm going back there soon, is that the farmers were not able to unload their paddy when it went to the mill
That's it.
because the miller class who have formed a cartel are
Yes.
supporters of the Jagdeo administration. And when he went there and he saw that you have 25 or more lorries and tractors lined up for more than
Leading
five
with
days
rice.
to
Yeah.
unload their paddy into one of the hack mills who monopolize the rice industry. The Hack family, the Nanpasad family are the ones who monopolize the rice industry. They control it. And they are supporters of the People's Progressive Party, the People's Promise Party. That's what they
Yes.
are. And so the farmers, the thousands of farmers, and those who are listening to us on this program today, they will have to make up their mind that
Yes.
the only way they can transform their industry and get a better living is to support a political movement led by us and Mr. Azuddin Mohammed that will transform agriculture in a way that we have never seen. Because what we will do is to use the co-op movement. Because Guyana is a cooperative republic, the PP, this Promise Party is not interested in co-ops. They've
No. No.
abandoned that idea totally. Because if you had an idiotic man who's Minister of Labor and is responsible for co-ops, who has absolutely no idea and have done absolutely nothing to reform or to revive the co-ops that are existing, how could you expect to be able look in the United States of America and in Europe, and particularly Italians and the Spanish, they have some of the biggest co-ops, farmers co-op that we've ever seen.
Because it's security. We're talking food security, Brother Jenna.
Yes,
It's
you talk
secure
for
to have
food,
co-ops of farmers,
exactly.
right?
And so, could you imagine? You cannot resolve the crisis in the rice industry, and in agriculture, and in the cost of food production, or cost of selling or getting food to the people, if you do not have these kinds of policies that we're talking about. That is, for instance, in the rice industry, that you build, you set up the agricultural and industrial bank, which Mr. Burnham has set up. Now,
Yes.
you can criticize Mr. Burnham for all kinds of other things you can criticize him for, but what I warn them, the Granger administration absolutely failed the farmers of this country because he had another idiot that he put as Minister of Agriculture, Noel
Noel.
Holder, who did absolutely nothing to enhance the power and the thing of the farmers because they failed. When I spoke to Noel Holder when he became minister, he said he wanted me to help him. I said, I'm willing to do that. But what the hell they make you minister when you don't know anything about agriculture? Yes. And
And you
he said,
see,
I know you're, yeah? He said,
sorry, sorry, Jenna. But let me because when you said Noel Holder, I remember something and it made me chuckle. Let's you and I are farmers. Let's say we have farmers and thousands of them in Guyana. If for 5 years on the Granger you had Noel Holder, then for 5 years on the Barrett, another your friend, you have Zulfikar Mustafa, and two of them are two failures. What happens to the farmers? Let's talk about policies and why it's so important to structure your cabinet in a way that you protect. We talk agriculture now. If you want to talk about agriculture, don't just put some friend or somebody you know you could control easily to run agriculture because you talk about food for the people. Remember Rohi in '92, I think it would have been when we had the preferential treatment with rice in Belgium and so on Europe. I got the report. It was Rohi who said we really don't need it and destroyed people who had rice mills. Rice mills went into people failed immediately from one man who don't know anything about agriculture having a big mouth. According to the farmers report, they are now suffering and it whittled it down to just the big names. Kim and Sankar, I think, went into bankruptcy because of one thing where we lost the preferential price for paddy. We lost preferential treatment for sugar. We're losing everything. Only cocaine got high pricing again with these the police officers and stuff. But we want to restore decency and integrity to life of farmers. We have in the People's Movement by the Brother Theodore Adams. Brother Theodore Jenner worked extensively in the Agri Development Bank. So we have right within our leadership and our role, team, someone who has experience in the Agri Development Bank, which would be um, reestablished because it is needed. There is no rice miller who's going to hold a farm at Plantam and say, take the tractor and you owe me your next crop. No, we're going to have a state-owned mill. We would import machinery so farmers can come and at a very low cost, they will be able to purchase these things because you want to strengthen the food industry. Brother Jenna, mutton is now sold at $2,000 per pound. How would Guyanese eat? I'm asking the question, how do y'all expect Jagan, Barrett? How do y'all expect people to eat? If farmers cannot be secure If the rice farmers can have watch their paddy on a truck for day after day after day, it got better than this. Some of them are getting half a bag of fertilizer. That's the help. And what Ali told them the other day, you have a choice. Take fertilizer, the big ones. If you have 30 acres or more, you take fertilizer at $200,000. I almost fainted because you're talking to farmers to tell them, in reference to your rice farm, you have two options: take the fertilizer, or we give you $200,000. And that is Ali's idea and policy for food security.
A man sent me a video today from Bonisika. I won't call his name, and he he was he declared that he was a PPP man. Always been a PPP. Always will be a PPP.
Yes.
But what was he? I sent it to you. What was he complaining about? He was complaining that they they established rotten leadership of the PPP, headed by Irfan Ali's uncle in Region 1, Region 3, is against him, and he colluded with other people. And he can't, this
Yeah.
poor fellow who can't read and write, doesn't understand the politics. So he believes that when you go and do a TikTok and say, oh, I am a born PPP, I always a PPP, and so on, that Jagdev will come to him and say, okay, right, let me
Yeah.
solve this problem. What the poor fellow does not understand, he does not understand anything about economics, basic economics. He does not understand anything about class and class struggle. Because what this
No.
administration is, this administration is a defender of the business sector, the
Correct.
business class, the big
Yeah.
business class in this
Yeah.
country. It does not represent the working class and working people in this country. And we talked earlier about this question about them trying to divide the people on the basis of race. And that's an additional, perhaps the most profound reason why the dictatorship is getting very agitated and very upset, because they have not supported the working class and working people in this country. You
That's
raise a
it.
number of which you raise a number of issues which we need to go deeper into discussing the crisis in the sugar industry and the alternative,
Yeah.
the diversification of
Correct.
agriculture and the sugar industry, we can have as a separate program, because we argued for with Granger not to close down the sugar industry
No.
in Wales, that we said that you give to the sugar workers the land, you form co-ops or a company,
Right.
and you
Correct.
make them shareholders. And we explained, as you had said, that you can do because the structure that are there, the dams where the cane is planted and the irrigation system is perfect, brother, for any kind of development. You can plant fish inside those canals, and on top of the dams, you can
That's
plant
it.
a portion of cane, and you can plant cash crops.
Correct.
So you will give ownership to the cane. You transform the cane, what you call the cane cutters, into owners of the means of production. You give them
Yeah.
ownership, so they and their children in the future will have ownership which they never had. You built the
And Brother
colonial
Jenna,
masters.
yeah. Sorry, because you said Sharon, and it really shows how much we clicking reference to our thought process. Because I was going to speak to youth in agriculture, and you said children should highlight something here. We produce at the Ghana School of Agriculture, many young people, many youths graduate. And guess where they are? On the road. In many cases, are just trying to figure out where we're going to fit a 10-day worker here and there. Because there's no policy in place for youth in agriculture. And of course, Jagdi and Irfan have no vision, so they can't see it. But our plan is clear. The youths in agriculture would be encouraged through technology. They love technology. Can you imagine if I put a drone in the hand of one of these young guys and say, listen, you all have, you graduated. We give you upon graduating from GSA. You have 40, 50, 100, 200 acres of land to cultivate. You have got we have the processing plant, so your crops are not going to suffer. We introduce them to understanding the principle of having insurance. Maybe we bring Brother Theodore to talk about the agri bank here. to show how farmers can be protected. This was his field. He worked for years, developed many farming industries and so on. So the youth in agriculture become important to us because the youth can feed themselves. They can have a job. They want to go to Ghana School of Agriculture, but to do what? When they leave, what do they do? Imagine, I say again, graduates of the Ghana School of Agriculture, skilled, trained, I should say, in crop and cultivation, have to be reduced to saying they're 10-day workers. Imagine that's what the PP has done to these people. They have no, and then they bring greenhouses and say, we're working there. They have no plan to give them land for them to work in a co-op society where they're able to manage their own business. You put drones in their hands and so they fly around the farm to irrigate it, to fertilize. It's amazing what we can do when we empower the youth of this country to function in every facet of society. So we can make it happen. I believe it.
You're absolutely right, and we need to have more of this discussion, more in depth. I mean, we're just brushing on the surface of it,
Yes.
because when we look at the transformation of the sugar industry, that we need to reduce. The Europeans paid Jagdeo over $30 billion to gradually transform the sugar industry, which is a failure, into other forms of
Yeah.
cultivation. And nobody knows what they did with that money. We will have to
Uh-huh.
set up an anti-corruption code,
Yes.
employ experts from abroad to try people who have, look, the time has come when we need to actually implement laws for people who are elected to be penalized
I
when they
agree.
take decisions that are detrimental to the interests of the people of this country. People who want to become politicians and want to run for offices, they must sign a declaration that if they are found in any way to be corrupt, and Mr. Azuddin, I have spoken to him, he agrees 100% with that. So what we are preaching here today is what we have discussed with Mr. Azuddin, has agreed with the 10 points program manifesto of the rights farmers.
Agriculture. Yes.
Totally. And some of the things that you have raised there, which, as you know, is in the manifesto. So he's agreed to that. And we are going to have people in government who are capable of implementing those policies and programs. So if you allow me a little more time to just round off the rights industry. The first thing we will do is to make the rice farmers into a co-op or a company, and they will own new rice mills. So they don't
Yes.
have to wait on these idiots who are holding up them, and they have to be PPP supported before they take their part. That's one of them telling the man,
Yes.
go, you're not a PPP supporter, right? We will dismantle these elements who control the rice, the millers who control the rice industry, by establishing in each rice farming area cooperative rice mill where the
Mills. Yes.
farmers will own and control those rice mills. And they be modern mills that will have silos. Um, um, Managed, that silos will be energy, they will be powered by solar and wind power. So you reduce the cost of energy production. So,
Yes.
so when the farmers, and allow me a little chance, because a lot of these rice farmers
Yes.
are
Go ahead.
listening to our program, and
Go right ahead, my brother.
I want to let them know that we have an answer to the problem. We are the only ones who have a solution to the impending with the current rice crisis. And if they go back and vote for the PPP, then they don't come back and tell us. They don't come back
No.
and tell us. They don't come and cry to us again. So they have the opportunity to put an end to this rascality that's going on in our country. Because if we are going to establish and change the policies, all the legislation in the agriculture, in the Ministry of Agriculture, give powers to the Minister of Agriculture to appoint people. That whole rice board needs to be dismantled. We don't need a
Yes.
rice board. You don't need a rice board. The farmers are private enterprise, as Granger had quite rightly said. But then you have laws that prevent them from actually actually owning and control their industry.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you plant okra and cassava and so on, the government doesn't control that. They don't even find the market for it. But when you plant rice, they control it. They sell it to
Yeah.
the rice mills, and then the rice mills. Do you know that Guyana, and the rice farmers should be proud of this, that the second largest foreign exchange into this country comes from the rice
Comes from rice.
industry?
Yeah.
And they don't recognize that you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars as foreign exchange that comes to the country. And you ask yourself the question, are you going to give a little fertilizer to these people? Why are you doing that? Are you treating them with that level of contempt and disrespect Irfan Ali, who knows nothing about nothing? I've never heard Irfan Ali speak anything in length. And we challenge them today, you and I, for any one of them to come onto our program, any
Oh
one of them,
yes.
or go
At
to
any
any
time.
against their program to discuss and debate any single issue in this country, whether it be education, housing, crime, whatever. We are willing to discuss with them, and we challenge Agnew. The nonsense he goes on when he has a press conference, that nonsense will stop, because
Yes, it will.
what he doesn't understand is that when you have a press conference, the journalists who are there, you don't harass them. You answer the question that they
Correct.
ask you, because
Correct.
they're asking those questions on behalf of the citizens of this country. And that is why the press and the media are so important, because it brings accountability to those who are elected. Those who are elected are servants of the people, and
Correct.
any future government will have ministers signing a document which says that they are servant of the people, and their
Yeah.
salaries would not be increased more than more than the highest paid
Public
civil
servant.
servant. Yes,
And let me say
because
this, Jenna.
look at
Um,
what Abraham Toure has done. He has
Burkina
not
Faso. Hmm.
he received the same salary as a captain in the army.
Yeah. And what I would say is this, in reference to that same anti-corruption, very strict policy that Mr. Mohammed has agreed to and would have, of course, is on the manifesto. We would like to ensure that we take careful or send a clear message to those who call presidents or whatever terminology you have. Lose, you can lose pension if you're found guilty of misrepresenting the people's or mishandling the people's business. So pension isn't secure for anybody. If it is found that that said minister or official has been corrupt in their dealings, they are not entitled to a pension, because it has to be serious. Because a lot of these guys have got a retirement plan, and that retirement plan they get like they're going to get 2 point something million dollars per month. 2.2, I think it is, million dollars per month. He earns over $24 million a year. And he hasn't complained to anybody for things that have transpired during his tenure. So we have to be able to handle our business very well. And I think that we can. And this is a very healthy conversation. Sadly, it has to come to an end soon. But Brother Dinner, when it comes to agriculture, um, this has to be a very, very strict focus and serious focus for us, because the cost of living has skyrocketed, and the promising party, and I call them the pathetic party, People's Pathetic Party, they do not know how to solve the problem, because should they try to solve the problem, they will offend their elite friends in the private sector. That's the problem. They know that if they make certain decisions, then those who funded their 2020 campaign will get mad and say, well, I give you so much money, why have me suffering now? We're not going to attack the rice millers, and how can those need to understand that you could come in line or you can stay behind. But you're not going to hold rice farmers at ransom and treat them as if they're second-class citizens. Farmers in Ghana deserve to be treated as though they are among the most important of all in reference to our society. They feed us. They provide food for the entire nation. And it's unfortunate that they treat us as though they're not very important. And I say again, to be a farmer who's successful, you have to be highly intelligent and very, very disciplined. And they possess those qualities. Why must they be made to suffer? Another report, Brother Jenna, is that the farmers are now clamoring for paddy to replant. In 2025, They have to be trying their best to see how they can get paddy that's really viable and that can germinate pretty quickly. Rice, when I look at rice as such, and you've been there, of course, rice is a very, very unique plant. You have to be so careful with it. It is time sensitive in so many aspects. And when you fail in one area, you miss a particular window of time, your whole crop gets affected. And now they have a problem with having seedlings of paddy to germinate to go back to the field. They have to try their best. Oh, if you could see if you get some for me and get some. And there's a whole lot of pulling and dealing to try to get this paddy. We are promising that it has to be a pledging, committing to ensure that this does not be the reality of the rice farmers. You must not have to try to wring somebody's hand to try to get a little paddy from them. You must be able to know that your future in the rice industry is secure, which would include us seeking to go return to Europe to have negotiations with them. They don't like certain chemicals in the crops. This is where the young minds and science come in, where we have to have research done to produce a strain of paddy or strains of rice that don't rely heavily on chemicals, so we can export to Europe again.
The problem, I don't know if you know that the Europeans have restricted the importation of rice from Guyana because
I
of
remember, yes, I'm saying,
the
yeah,
high content of fertilizers,
chemicals.
weedicides, and chemicals inside. But
That's what I'm saying.
we need to encourage our farmers to diversify. And at our next discussion, we will discuss what type of other crops that we can plant to enrich the farmers and industrialize agriculture in a way in which everybody benefits. That the consumers are able to have food, healthy food, and at a reasonable price.
Yeah,
So I know we have to go, but let's plan our next discussion. As you said, agriculture is very important. In fact, the dictatorship has accepted that agriculture is the backbone of
yeah,
this country. But
correct.
if it's the backbone of this country, and you are treating the people who are producing the food with utter contempt and disregard, uh, do you really seriously believe in what you're saying? These people do not believe in what they say. They just
No,
repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and the lies become the truth. And that's why I call them the people promising party,
promising party.
because
I like that.
what they would have done, should have done 5 years ago, they have failed to do it. And only a fool will listen to them and think that they will, what they should have done, they're now promising again to do.
And once
So
the hero broadcast tonight, they'll promise something else on this broadcast right here.
they,
Because
they
Ali
will
said
keep
they'll have drying facilities built. Because they will take our ideas, they have none of their own.
they have none of their own, and you can't steal people's ideas. Look, Ali talked about the stabilization fund. Look, the stabilization
Mhm.
fund, the rice stabilization fund, which will give fixed price to the rice farmers, only we can implement it.
Yeah,
They can't implement it. That policy is a policy that is being implemented in East Asia, among the Taiwanese and these other rice farmers and so on, where that they fix the price, and that can only be fixed if you establish the agriculture and industrial bank. So there are a number of
exactly.
people, there are a number of these enterprises, like the banks. These commercial banks are the
Mm,
biggest ripoff, and I
yes,
I pledge that I will do every single thing for Mr. Azruddin to become president of this country, because one of the many things we will do is to teach these commercial banks a lesson, and an organization
yeah.
called IPED that charges enormous interest to the farmers,
Interest, yes.
that we will deal with them, and we will ensure that the farmers take out their monies from the agricultural bank and put it inside take it out from the commercial
Commercial
bank,
bank, right.
put it in the
In your own bank.
agricultural bank, and they will then become shareholders of the bank,
That's it.
so that
That's it.
so that
Yeah,
so that apart from them borrowing money at 3.5% interest, they will get a dividend
correct.
at the end of the year, like a
Correct.
company like the
Banks,
the
yeah,
island
it's right.
cyclone,
The
bank
guy,
failure.
right, right.
Yes. So
Yes,
that's the
yes.
kind of
Mhm.
incentive, and brother, it does not cost us anything to do that.
No,
All we need is to be able to have the will to implement these policies and programs, and no other government will do it unless uh, um, a government that we are part of.
and it's good that we ending on this note because it's a commitment that we've made, and this is where I'm saying the whole talk about who's African and who's Indian and who's betraying whom doesn't work for us because our focus in the people's movement is on policy, strategy, structure. That's how we look at how do we develop our country in a manner to a place whereby we are thriving as Guyanese. How do we ensure that our youths are thriving? How do we ensure that pensioners like you, Brother Jina, can earn at least $100,000 per month? And if you have to go to any medical facility for your checkup, you should not have to pay $1 to a taxi. No, we're going to have easy access or easy transport system for pensioners where you are traveling for free and not on a bus somewhere. They'll pick you up and take you to where you have to go. Providing jobs again for youth, but securing the likes of you. You've served our nation. You, Shel Muhammad has served their nation. Other people have served their nation. My father and mother and other people. Mama Patsy served their nation. Why must they have to catch a taxi for $2,000 in some cases when they pension 41,000 or 35,000? It's ridiculous. So we will have about the highest paid pensioners in the Caribbean because we could afford to do it. We could afford to do that. And we can afford to say to you all that you will benefit significantly from the work of the youth because you made the youths in the country. You strengthened the youths in the country. So therefore, you must be the beneficiaries. And these are all plans that I know would cause Guyanese to realize that racism is not going to work over here. And the black and the African and Indian talk is not going to work over here. What will work over here is how do we speak to developing our country to a place whereby we can really say that we're enjoying life in Guyana. We are loving the fact that we're Guyanese and we don't want to go anywhere. That's the other thing. You wouldn't want to leave Guyana when we finish with you as a pensioner. You'd say, why must I leave here when I have everything I need? So I'm thankful, brother. I'm so thankful. You muted a bit, but I'm thankful that we had this discussion tonight. Theodore, our brother, please make yourself available. We will talk about the Agri Development Bank because it shall be revitalized. It shall be reopened. It shall be a reality for farmers to be secure and food security to begin in the business sector.
Actually, the bank is the old bank building is still there next to Mr. Azudin's office.
GNCB, yeah, still there,
So, so
a
yeah,
relic of the past.
so I think he's eyeing in the top as soon as he gets there that we will reestablish that bank. It will be one of
We
the.
have to,
It will be a monumental feature of
yeah,
our new government.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
and
we
there
want
are
to
many
we
across the regions too.
yes, we want to wish all of those brothers and sisters who are listening to us to carry the message to share this program to as much people as possible so they can listen and they can comment, they can criticize, and they can get back to us. There has to be
Thank you.
we should put up a telephone number so that people can call us to have private discussions. And they
Yes,
should what about our Facebook? Do they know about it? So they can
yes,
go
it's
there.
there. These are numbers. We'll add your number too as well in short order
Mhm.
so that people can know
Yeah.
we have Sister Amanda. The People's Movement, as you said, is here, but we understand the power of working in unison with other groups, other parties, and other movements. As long as we share vision, we share ideas, we share policies, we prepare to work to the best interest in the best interest of our country, not in self-interest, the best interest of our nation. And at this time, we understand that the new movements must arise to change the political culture of Guyana. It's necessary. And we would be a part of that because I believe that all the members of the movement and other places say they want to see the collaboration of groups working in the best interest of the nation. And we raise our hands and say, well, we are more than willing to do that because we were making the call from the beginning. So, Jenna, thank you, my brother. The number is there, especially WhatsApp. Please send a WhatsApp message to that number, +1 973 641 1259. Send a WhatsApp message. You have an interest in being a part of the movement. We'll receive you. We'll have conversations. and you can give us your ideas. I would like to heartily say that there are youths working, even as far as England, a young man. He's seeking the involvement and the input of youths, and they're saying what they want to see in Guyana. I say again, young people are saying what they would like to see. And why I smiled is when I felt that much of what they wanted to see is actually in our manifesto. And I said, look at that, because our focus is on how do we preserve the future of our country. How do you preserve it through the activity of and the involvement of our youth? Brother Jenna, thank you so much to those from the People's Movement, the council who are watching. Thank you for being here. And we look forward to another healthy discussion tomorrow. As we said, we'll be before you at least every evening at 7:30. Look forward to the People's Movement. So do well. Shalom. Do well. Bye, brother. Brothers and sisters, thank you, thank you, thank you. Election 2025 is upon us, and it's imperative that we understand how serious this is. We have a few days, not months, I see it as days, before we elect a new leadership to guide our country in the right direction. Wherever there is a tide of disagreement, uncertainty, and any effort being made to bring division to people, I stand on the other side and say, stop it. Because we're not going to go down the path again of ethnic elections or ethnically driven elections. We shall change this country because it makes it better for all of us. Policies will dictate the future of Guyana. Integrity shall dictate the future of our country. Honesty and uprightness will be the hallmark of our nation. Order and decency must be restored to our nation. I pledge myself, and we pledge in the People's Movement and any other group to do that with all of our energy, because Guyana deserves to be rescued from the hand of a dictator. Do well. Bye.